So here's the deal. We're in the middle of the election period, general election. Don't worry, I'm not going to be getting political here. That's not what this is about whatsoever. But we're in the midst of an election campaign. I was driving into work the other day and I was listening to the radio, as you do, and the conversation and topic piece there was about growth. Do we actually need growth? Why is everyone talking about how we need to grow the economy? Blah, 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 blah. People were saying that, for example, why are you going for growth? Why are we not just happy with sustainability, with the lot that we're given and where we are? And I just thought to myself, do you know what? This is a good question. I want to know, why is it? And for us, we're always looking for how we can achieve growth over a period of time within organizations that we work with. But why is that? And is growth actually something that is important within the health and social care industry? So with that in mind, I'm going to whiteboard this shit. House music. Hey there everyone, I'm back again. It's Mike from Cavil. If you haven't met me before, that is who I am. I am the owner and founder of Cavil, and we've been working with businesses. I don't know what this is, by the way. I think I'm doing some kind of dance, but I've been working with businesses for over 7 years to help them to increase their productivity, patient care, and HR within their business. Now, I've been doing HR, and it may not look like it from my lovely youthful complexion, for nearly 19, no, actually, scrap that, crap, over 19 years. And within that process, there is not much shit that I've not seen. I've seen an awful lot of stuff within an awful lot of types of businesses, within a lot of different sectors. But as always, the thing I love about HR is it's individualistic. There's always new and crazier stuff that people seem to be able to find to do that I've never seen before. And I'm always learning and I'm always expanding on that growth process for myself personally. So with that said, I want to get started on looking at growth within the health and social care sector. That whole principle of, well, hang on a minute, should we? Just because we like the idea of getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, is bigger always right? Is it always right to strive for that? Or should we be satisfied with sustainability or accepting our lot in life and where we actually currently are? So I want to get into that interesting question. And I want to look at the balance. I want to look at the case for and the case against, Your Honour, and try and present that and come to a conclusion towards the end of this video. And really, to be honest with you, I'd love to know your thoughts on that too. So drop them in the comments at the end. But let's get on. I think the first thing first, for me, as always, is I want to know about the definition. We're looking at growth, but what is that? What is growth? And specifically, what is growth? I did a Gordon Ramsay. What is growth within the health and social care sector? What does that mean? Let's have a look. So for me, what is growth? That's the key question here. The definition that we have, that we've come to, by the way, is the expansion and development of business to increase their capacity and effectiveness for delivering care services. Yeah, right. The key things that I take away from that in terms of growth is increasing capacity, effectiveness in the delivery of care. That's what we're looking to do. We want to increase our capacity and our ability to be able to deliver the care and the patient-centered care that we're actually here to look to do. So when you put that in perspective, just on that definition, growth sounds like a very positive thing within the health and social care arena, right? Because if you're looking at increasing your ability and your effectiveness with your care for the individuals, that's hard to argue is a bad thing. So I'm going to start off on the straight here, and I'm going to have a look at some of the reasons for growth that we've come to and try and explore, actually, does that fit within that definition, and how much do those things link up to actually resonate with what we're feeling from that initial description that we have right there. Let's go. So I'm back in the room right now. One of the things that I was just thinking about, for those of you, I just want to put this out as a caveat, If you are listening to this right now through our podcast, by the way, we also have a podcast available. Just want to put that out there. But if you are listening to this through our podcast, then you might want to have a look at the video as well, because obviously I'm putting notes up on the whiteboard and it's sometimes good to be able to see that, especially in this video. I'm actually going to town on some of the notes that I'm putting on there. So it's not just my awful, god-awful drawings. It's also actually looking at some copious notes that I want to actually delve into right now. So with that said, I want to start looking at some of the reasons why growth within the sector could be a good thing. And as always, no, it's not an exhaustive list. Yes, there is probably more. And yes, I want to hear about it in the comments. So please let me know, correct me if I've missed anything that's really important. Jesus, tell everyone, please share. So let's go along. So the first one I want to focus on is demand. Look, it is silly to sit back and think that our country and population within the country is not endemically growing. It absolutely is. The population is increasing. The amount of people here in the UK is growing. And at the moment in time, it's also aging. So it's important to get some grasp on reality with that. So at the moment, 1 in 4, by 2040, 1 in 4 people are going to be aged 65 or older. And those aged 85 plus are likely to double by 2043. That's the government stats of our current situation. Of course, that can always grow and increase as we get closer to those dates, by the way. And I did a little bit of working out. I may fall into some of these categories later on down the road. Just putting it out there, feel sorry for me. But that's the situation, the lie of the land of where we're going at the moment in time. So the country, the population, the amount of people, by the way, that's pensioners, 65-year-old pensioners plus, and that's pensioners 85 plus within the UK is going to be growing and doubling. And, you know, one of the things that's important to be aware of is as we age, and it's not always the case, and I get that, these services around health and social care are going to become more and more important to us as a population. There's the other one, which is quality. Growth can lead to more resources, more investment and staffing, and better tech advancement and innovation. In other words, as we are growing as an organization, thinking about you as an individual entity for a minute, as you grow, you have the capacity to increase the quality of the care you provide through increased staffing, more innovation around patient care pathways, maybe even growth around the resources that you're actually using to provide the care. I'm going to spin back on some of this in a minute as well. So if you're sitting there thinking, does it? Wait. So, economic. So this one actually didn't astound me at all, but obviously in 2022, health and social care accounted for 7.4% of the UK's GDP. That's 106, can't even say it, that's 106 billion pounds, and it's set to increase even more, regardless of whatever your party political persuasions are over this election campaign. It's probably going to grow, right? So the situation is that doesn't shock me, but what that does show is that there's a large amount of focus on the growth in our economy to meet the growth of all of the demand that's likely to come further down the line. So there is a shift that's moving and ratcheting up. So you need to have some economic growth and investment, you presume. Again, not political here, but you're going to have some growth economically to meet with the growth in the demand that's taking place. Then we also have research. So research, increased spend on research and development, more efficiencies, enhanced patient care, and lower costs. So I guess this kind of links back into a little bit of equality to a degree, that the bigger you become, the more you're going to invest in research. And therefore, the more efficiencies you're going to find in patient care pathways. And equally, the better and lower the costs and the better the care you're going to provide. Now, the thing I want to spin back to is I think there's a lot of assumptions made within at least two of those elements right there around quality and research. Because not all businesses, just because they've grown and got bigger, are going to necessarily invest heavily in research and development. Just because businesses got better doesn't mean that equals more quality. I mean, that's a real big issue I have with that. It doesn't really connect in that particular way. These things aren't mutually exclusive. The bigger you get, the more quality you have. There's a lot that underpins that. It's not a given that if you get big, those things will happen. But that being said, there's a possibility. Of course there is. With the bigger you are, the more financially stable you are, the more you can invest in increased quality, better pathways for patient care, the more you can actually think about research and development in better and more efficient ways of providing that care. And we can all take part in that as we grow, not just one singular organization, can actually invest in those things. Of course, that can happen, but it doesn't mean it will by nature of being big. So growth doesn't by nature, in my context personally, mean it's going to go in that particular way. So that makes me really think long and hard then, or what's the counter argument? Is there a counter argument when you see the actual fact, the demand within our country for the health and social care is going to grow over time? This is going to become a bigger beast as years go by. And equally, the economic, I can't even speak today, the economic kind of ramifications are being noticed in some ways with the fact that funding is increasing and has increased up by that much and will continue to increase. Whether that's enough to meet the demand is a whole other question that I'm not getting involved in. But that is the situation where we are. So other things around in the periphery of the health and social care arena, well, they're growing. So would the health and social care arena and the businesses within it need to grow to meet what's happening on the outsides and the fringes? Let's have a look. Okay, so let's take a step back a minute. We've looked and reviewed the reasons why growth may not only be a good thing, potentially, may actually be a necessity within the health and social care sector. And for those of you coming back, just publicising, there is a podcast, by the way, just to let you know, in case I haven't mentioned that. I am doing a lot of notes here, but just in case you thought, well, I'm not going to flip over and watch a video just to see the notes, thank you very much. I want to see Mike's awful drawings. I got some of them too. I introduced some of them too, so I don't want people being missed out. So here we go. So let's have a look at some of what I would say when I've researched it, looking at the reasons not to grow, but are actually turning out to be more reasons of things to be aware of when looking to grow, if that makes sense. So just coming through, the first one we'll come back onto is quality control. If you remember a minute ago, we just mentioned about quality and the fact that just by being big or growing and extending your services, expanding, remember that definition, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to increase your quality, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to invest more into quality. And that is something that the King's Fund, that's a crown, by the way, the King's Fund, that's something they've picked up on. And they've said, do you know what? You can't just grow for the sake of growing. Growth just for the sake of growth reduces the likelihood of quality. So as you are growing, as you are extending your business, you need to be mindful of the fact that you can't do it at the risk of subverting the amount of quality you're giving in patient-led care. And that makes perfect sense to me, because when you think about it, the whole premise, the whole reason why you're here as an organization speaking directly to you in a health and social care business or an owner of a health and social care business is for the provision of patient-led care. So when you put that as your North Star of what you're trying to achieve as a business, that's the whole premise of why you exist, then surely quality has to come first above and beyond quantity. So quality absolutely counts. Now, that doesn't mean, going back onto what we were discussing a minute ago, that you can only give quality and you can't have quantity. I think you can have both, but you just can't have quantity. Oh my God, you can't have quantity at the risk of reduced quality. And that's something that the King's Fund picked up on. The other one is financial. The Health Foundation said, money too tight to mention, man. And they're kind of right. They didn't say it in that exact way. They weren't quoting whoever it was from Simply Red. The point here is that organizations are already quite financially stretched with where they are. So it's not saying you shouldn't grow, but it's remembering that it's got to be in a structured, organized, strategical methodology. So in that sense of things, grow, yes. Increase, sure. Increase quality, absolutely. However, it's got to be financially viable and stable. You can't run before you can crawl, goddammit. And money's already tight. Even though we're spending 106 billion in the economy at the moment and it's set to increase, when you think about it, so are the amount of people we're going to have to care for. So that's still less money and to go around the amount of people that we're meant to be caring for, and less people within our companies that's there to be able to provide the care in the first place. So something to bear in mind. Coming on to that, staffing. Again, that's a person. I drew a person. You may not be able to see that. It's the best I could do on a whiteboard, all right? Skills for Care asked, where are all the people at? Where is everyone? If we're going to grow and we're going to expand our businesses, that means that the more people we're going to be caring for. Well, we already know there's a lot of demand for care within the community, within our hospitals and our infrastructure, and that's only going to go one way, up. But you need people to be able to provide that care. I mean, this is the key thing we talk about. People within your business are so important. You can't do anything without them. So where are they coming from? You're already struggling with recruitment. You're already struggling with retention. So those rates aren't changing. I mean, they're just ridiculous. The amount of turnover, I think it was 9.9% of people are leaving adult social care. And the vacancy rate is just astounding at the moment in time. So if you're going to grow your business, that means you're going to need to grow your staffing levels. We just already identified that on the last section. So where are you getting them from? Where do they come from? The next one is short-termism. So Nuffield House has said a focus for growth can lead to a short-termism kind of view. In other words, the rush for a business just to grow for the sake of growing means they're going to make short-term decisions that could lead to things like cost cutting in order to be able to fund growth, growing in a way that they can't sustain it, coming back into the staffing. So, interesting story. When I started working in HR in a hospital, I'm not going to mention the hospital, mention no names whatsoever. But when I started, just before I got there, they'd gone through a round of redundancies in cardiothoracic unit. So they'd actually made cuts within the people within that particular unit. And when I got there, they were just about to finish the completion of a cardiothoracic unit, a brand new one, spent millions of pounds on it at the time to build it. So when it went live, whilst I was there still, they didn't have enough people to fill it. And that's short-termism. That's trying to grow, to increase the hospital, to give better patient care, investing in infrastructure and development, sure, absolutely. But you took the people away and you couldn't staff it. And that's the short-termism that I believe Nuffield Health are actually referring to. And that absolutely does happen. And the next one is bigger equals more. CQC. Oh, we all love them, right? And the CQC themselves have questioned consistency. In other words, as you get bigger and perhaps you scale to more than one site, being able to keep consistency across all of them to the levels and the criteria and the regulations that are set within CQC becomes harder. I call this the McDonald's analogy. So one of the things with McDonald's, if you haven't watched the video of the founder, do so. I think it's actually a really good video. But one of the things with McDonald's is as they grew their franchise development, the actual process, the actual quality control of what they were actually serving. Some people were serving chicken burgers, they were putting lettuce and tomatoes on, which sounds, what's the problem with that? But back when McDonald's started, that was not the simple process. They were growing because they kept things simple. They had a simple menu, which was new at that time. It didn't exist in that particular way. So the more businesses they got, the bigger they grew, the harder it was to retain that quality. I guess it kind of comes back to the point that the King's Fund are talking about in terms of quality and quantity. And that's exactly what's happening here in terms of the regulations. the more and faster you grow, the expectation is you have consistency of your processes and your delivery of care across the piece. It shouldn't dip in certain levels just because you're growing. So it's making sure you've got that there. So I think that's actually quite a lot to think about. But one thing I will say before I go on to the next segment of this video is these aren't arguments not to grow. These are not arguments that are saying growth is bad, you should not look to do it. It's not saying those things to you. It's saying these are things you've got to consider as you grow. That's my takeaway from this, is that personally, yes, you need to ensure quality. Yes, you need to ensure financial stability. Yes, you need to have a workforce strategy as to how you're going to grow. Yes, you need to have longer term goals and visions. And yes, you need to have consistency across the piece of your organization. That's not saying you shouldn't grow. It's just saying how you should grow. Does that make sense? That's what I take. Okay, so I just want to sum up briefly. We've been looking through, for me, one of those questions, which I think is a perfectly viable question, is growth important and necessary within the health and social care arena? And I think one of the biggest things that I've taken from that is that absolutely it's a necessity. We need to grow businesses in the health and social care arena because the population that we're caring for and likely to care for in the future is growing. And we're recognizing that because we are going to have to increase how much we spend on it. Whatever your politics are, that's not part of this process, but it's going to have to happen. That being said, there are a lot of things we need to think about. And that comes down to not saying that growth shouldn't happen or growth is bad. It's saying that there are these endemic issues that could occur if you grow without thinking and considering them. And for me, that's good news. It's good news because the things that we're working on with our clients at the moment in time is precisely that. It's not growth for the sake of growing in the sector. It's trying to achieve sustainable growth. So growth that is actually cemented and can actually benefit the organization in the future, not growth that's going to lump it in problems because it's grown without a strategy. And that is the key indicator here. Look, there was an interview with I think it was the Secretary of State with the Nuffield Health, and she said that in actual fact, when you look forward into the future, currently we have 3.3 workers to every pensioner within the UK. And as we grow and over time, that's going to actually shrink down to 2.2. So we're going to have under 2 potentially individuals per pensioner that we're caring for in the UK. And that just shows the issue that's at hand here. It's a case of trying to grow and do more, but sometimes with less. So when we're talking about the staffing, when we're talking about the financials, but we should always ensure that what we're doing, where we're coming from, the whole premise of the businesses that we're opening and running is built on delivering the best quality of patient-led care. That's at the center. That's the North Star of everything we're aiming for and we're targeting. So with that being said, it's important that we have that infrastructure, that time, that strategy, that ability to have a workforce that can provide the quality of care for the larger grouping of people that will come through the system, with potentially less people caring per pensioner in our population as we go through time. We need to be able to invest and grow and increase our research around the methodologies to how we're providing that care of doing more with less. We need to be able to look at some of those bits and pieces and those processes. And when I come down to it, for me, one of the key takeaways is that the people within our business that are devising that are delivering that care at the very front face of your business are going to be so important to everything that we're doing. In terms of the relationships and rapport we're building with our patients, the quality of the care that we're giving to them, the ability to meet the regulations, the heavy regulations that we have in the industry, and for rightful reasons, and look at what we're doing. But those things are really, really key and important. So for me, I believe growth is not just something we want within our businesses. As a business, yes, especially as a commercial business, we want to be able to grow. Of course we do. And that is not wrong. That's not a naughty word. growth as a commercial business in the health and social care arena is a good thing. And it's right, just like any other business. But I don't think it's the reason to grow. I think the reason to grow is because there's a necessity, there's a need. We have to be able to grow and scale our health and social care businesses in this industry. But the sole focus shouldn't just be on growth for the sake of growth. It should be focusing on how we grow and how we measure that and sustain that and go through that process and build strategies, not just for the short term, but for the longer term of the organization. Because if we grow our health and social care businesses to a state where we're providing good quality care, but we're doing it in a short-term method, the business won't be there forever and it won't be there for very long. And it doesn't achieve that process of delivering the best quality patient-led care because it won't be there and it's putting that at risk. So sustainability with necessity is the order of the day. Look, everybody, I appreciate your time going through this with me, and it's been a bit of a hefty video, I've got to say, especially for me in terms of research and notes, and I do appreciate that. So if you want to scroll back and pause videos, pause parts of the video to get some of those notes, please do so, and let me know your comments below as to what you think about that, because again, I don't have a moratorium on this point of view of what's happening, and I definitely want to learn what other people have, and I do find it actually quite an intriguing question. On the face of it, it looks quite obvious, but in actual fact, when you delve a bit deeper, there are some intricacies there we need to consider. But thank you very much for watching through to here. I fully appreciate you. And if you have found any value whatsoever, then please, there's a link in the description if you wanted to do so that you can click on. There's no bullshit, there's no webinars, no bollocks. It is a funnel, so I will not, try and lead you down the garden path. It is a funnel for our services to help and support you. But if you did go through that process, literally it's just to explore if we can help and support you. Either way, I would really appreciate it if you could give us a like. Please subscribe and also share the video. Help us to grow and grow the message and to get things across. And I will take it from there. Thank you very much. Have fun. Bye.